A week ago, I joined a convent. The Sisters of the Holy Trinity is a convent of cloistered nuns. That means we aren't allowed to leave except for essential things like doctor's visits or funerals. That's fine with me. I have no family, and the few friends I did have fell away when I needed them most. I was looking for a new start, a way to cast off my demons once and for all. The Sisters of the Holy Trinity seemed like the answer. The building was gorgeous, a large, Gothic building on the side of a mountain. Great views and cool mountain air. The food was so-so, but the women were really nice and welcoming. People always picture nuns as solemn little old ladies, but there were a lot of young women like me. Rambunctious ones too, joking around and playing pranks on each other. The other postulant, that's what they call us newbies who haven't been formally accepted into the order yet, was named Maria. I shared a room with her. She was very quiet, but otherwise nice. "Are you excited?" I asked her the day we moved in. She shrugged. "I guess." "I know, it's a little scary." I pulled out a few of my shirts and started folding them. "But the women seem nice, don't they?" She broke eye contact and looked at the floor. "Sister Margaret is kind of odd," she said finally. Sister Margaret. That was the frail old nun, the first sister I'd met here. Really? She's been really nice to me. That's the thing. She's sort of too nice, like really in your face about it. She sighed. "I don't know. She was telling me I should eat more at dinner last night, and she was really worried about me, and it felt like she was trying to mother me or something." I frowned. "Yeah, I can see that. Sorry, I shouldn't have said anything," Maria said. She hung her head low, avoiding eye contact. We went back to unpacking our clothes in silence. For the first several days, things were great, but then, on the 8th night, things got weird. I woke up with a start at 2 a.m. Through the window, the moon hung low over the mountains. I rolled over, pulling the covers over me, and that's when I heard the praying. A soft voice coming from the hallway. I couldn't tell exactly what prayer it was, but I could tell from the chanting monotone that it was a prayer. Who was up so late? It wasn't Maria. She was still sleeping soundly, her snores filling the room. I tiptoed to the door, pulled it open a crack, and peered out. At the end of the hallway, I saw one of the nuns walking away from me. That wasn't so weird. We had shared bathrooms, and people often used them in the middle of the night, and the praying wasn't weird either. This was a convent after all. What was weird is she was dressed in full habit. I watched her walk along the hallway, passing under the arched doorway silently. The black robe trailed after her. She turned around a corner, and it was out of sight. My curiosity got the better of me. I slipped out the door and followed her. I walked down the hallway, the tile cold under my bare feet. Ahead I could still hear the nuns chanting prayers. I turned the corner, and there she was, silently drifting down the hallway. I should have turned around. I know that. But I didn't. Keeping my distance, I followed her, watching closely. As she turned the corner, her face turned and I saw wrinkled skin and a hooked nose poking out from the black and white fabric. It was Sister Margaret. She stopped in front of the chapel doors, then she pulled them open and stepped inside. Before the door could slam shut, I slipped in after her. The chapel was dark. The walls were washed in gray, and the usual bright mahogany of the pews darkened to a deep, dark indigo. Jesus on the cross hung at the front of the chapel, silently, his glass eyes glinting dimly in the moonlight. I stepped to the left, ducking under the stairs to the choir balcony. She continued forward down the aisle. She slipped into the front row. Clank. She brought the kneeler down, kneeled, and resumed her prayer. Suddenly I felt awful. Here I am following a 90-year-old praying nun. What was I thinking? I leaned against the wall, letting out a soft sigh. I'm not ready to be a nun. Not ready to be a postulate even. I'm just some lost kid. I turned to go, and that's when I heard it. Sister Margaret's prayer. It wasn't the Our Father or the Hail Mary prayer. It wasn't asking God to cure the sick or save the poor. No, it was something dark and horrible. We beseech thee, Lord of the Shadows, she said in low, fervent tones, to give us what we've asked for. In return, we have what you asked for. She continued repeating that line over and over, like a prayer. Her soft voice echoed under the vaulted ceiling, and the shadows gathered under the pews, surrounding me. I backed away. Get out! My hand reached for the door, and then I stopped. If I open the door, she'll hear it. She'll know I was in here. So I stood there under the shadows of the stairs, frozen, waiting. After what seemed like an eternity, she stood up. Clank. The kneeler fell back into its position. She slid from the pews and then stopped in front of the crucifix. "We will triumph over you," she whispered. "Always." Then she turned around and started coming up the aisle. I flattened my back against the wall, held my breath. Her footsteps echoed through the church, growing louder and louder. I watched through the slats in the stairs as her black-clad form grew closer, skirts swishing across the ground. She stopped in front of the doors. "No, she sees me. Lord, please, don't let her see me." She pulled the door open, and then she was gone. I let out a long, shuddering breath. My knees felt weak. Gripping the edge of the stairs, I pulled myself forward. I waited a few minutes, but she didn't return. Finally, I pulled the door open and slipped out into the hallway. I returned to my room as quietly as I could, jumped in bed and pulled the covers up over me. But I didn't fall asleep. I only lay there, wide awake, my heart drumming in my chest. A few hours later, I got up for morning prayer. Sister Margaret greeted me first, inclining her head. "Good morning, Isabella," she said with a smile. But something in her eyes, something in her expression, I think she might know where I was last night.